We're live. Hello, people. I'm trying to pull up live of Doge. Hello. She lost her
Hello.
face. Dave!
Hey, Dave.
How goes it?
Pretty well. How goes it?
It's going. We have 7 viewers. I think we're like famous.
7? That is.
Yeah, 7.
Whoa. I'm
9.
holding
We're
my
at 9.
phone. Oh my God. This is more.
Dave, are you
This is.
holding your phone right now?
I was holding it on a like gyroscope stabilizer because I
Mm-hmm.
set up a little home studio
Yes.
and I was in such a rush when I got home that I took it off and I was like, that's not going to happen at
Yeah.
all.
Well, I'm thrilled to show you my professional home studio. You ready for this? This is
Yeah.
my tripod we're currently working with.
Oh, nice.
We have
That.
a nice notes sheet and a kitchen utensil thing that I am holding it against.
I
Hello from Ontario. Hello
Hello.
from Scooter Floyd. How's your boy Forrest doing? Forrest is great. Forrest is a superstar. Precision K9. Hello. How are you?
Hello.
How is everybody? Lots of
Oh,
waves.
lots of
Quick wave back.
waves. I was I had a lesson with a 3-month-old puppy, so I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be cool." And then I was like, "Oh shit, I gotta get going."
Yeah, we got things to do, you know?
I got the curse of the I talk too much.
Yeah, I know. I don't talk enough sometimes. So,
Sitting there in lessons where it's dead silence, like so
yeah. Yeah,
but
I use the excuse of like I'm here to work the dog, right? So like I'm gonna train your dog and I'm gonna spend the first minutes doing that and getting over my social anxiety of being around new people, and then I'll start talking to you.
yeah. I usually tell people, "Hey, you guys just hang right there. I'm gonna go take your dog. Don't
Yeah,
worry about it. I'm
yeah. Just
just go pet him."
watch. We'll go
hmm
over everything later, you know?
We'll go over it later. I don't know if this is a local thing, but Perfectly Plum is a new flavor
Yeah.
that I am so into right now.
I'm pretty sure the polar is a little bit more regional. I don't
Ooh,
think it's everywhere because I it's hard to find around here. I've seen it from
interesting.
time to time, but I don't know.
Damn. Where is this? Where's Polar Mania? Let's see. Hmm. Mm,
Oh, Hollister
no.
003. Your grandsons Josie and Lincoln are doing wonderful as well. We
Yeah.
just had them out a little bit ago. We got all sorts of dogs in for board and trains. We got a lot. I feel like we got an active group of board and train family members this round. You know, it's like when we post something about one of the dogs, we get the whole family that comes in and like giving them pet talks and like cheering them from the sidelines and stuff. It's pretty cool. So
That's always fun. Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool. Are you running? You still just have them at the shop going, or are you at right at home?
board and trains are still going. I'm at my
Yeah.
house right now, but
Yeah.
board and trains are currently still rolling. We have the shop functioning, so we had to kind of cut back our one-on-one sessions. We eliminated daycare for a little bit,
Yeah.
and like overnight boarding, like we probably would have canceled just because we
hmm
don't have as much staff as normal right now. But honestly, like nobody's traveling, so like there hasn't really been very many people that have
I
been
ha
those
I
services
I
in
got a
general. So
boarding
we didn't really
dog.
need to reach out to anybody like, hey, sorry, we can't do this anymore, you know?
Yeah, right. So I
Yeah.
picked up a boarding dog March 1st,
Mm-hmm.
and this dog boards with me all the time. He's a golden doodle named Duke that I get. He was like the first board and train I ever got when I was on my own,
Mm-hmm.
and his owners are stuck in Florida, so I've had this dude since March 1st. And
Mm-hmm.
she just like sends me a check every 2 weeks. She's like, "Is Duke doing great?" I was like, "He looks like a Muppet because he needs a haircut and a groom real bad, but like, I don't think you want me to touch his hair."
One of my colleagues up in Canada, she was posting some stories the other day of her like grooming her dogs, like with clippers and everything, because they can't
Oh,
take them anywhere and they need it.
yeah.
And just like these botched haircuts, like at the end. It was
Yeah, thank God
hilarious.
Roland and Oki don't really need much other than a brush and a wash, and they get hosed off. That's the
Yeah.
best thing I could do for you guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Luckily I could keep mine. Mine don't need haircuts. They just stay
Yeah,
clean. That's it.
yeah. Just dry shampoo or just regular old shampoo. Oh, yay. Ugh.
So this is the first official dog talk
Dog
slash
talk.
Q&A slash whatever you want to call it with another dog trainer live. I don't ever go live. I'm not a live guy.
I
Again, for
tried
the
to.
social anxiety talk that we just discussed,
It's
it's not
hard.
usually my thing. So I'm glad to be able to share this with somebody and share the burden, because if I were just sitting here by myself in front of this thing, I'd be like we do our
That's the
Q&A and
hardest
stuff.
thing.
Everybody got really confused the other day when we did our Q&A because they thought it was going to be live, and I was like, no. Like, I'm filming this like on my own, and then it's going to get posted later, where I don't have to sit there and like look at the numbers going up and down. Like,
Yeah, and
am I
then
being
like
too boring right now?
re-scroll.
Is this exciting enough? Am I trying too hard? What's going on?
That's
You know?
I tried to do those things. Like I've done a couple of lives where I'll have people. I'll just post a thing, like, give me questions, and then I'll just go live and answer them, which would
Mm-hmm.
just be like that thing. And it's been the first one was so bad that I deleted it right away. I was like, oh no, like no, because I'm like, how do I do this? Like the questions are in my inbox, and I was like, maybe I'll write them on a notepad. And I was like, what? I don't. Uh, I
Like, I
was
don't
like,
know what to
no,
do. I don't know what to
we're
do. I
not.
don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do. And then
So,
if you go live, you're sitting here for 4 hours waiting for someone to come and do a question. Because I
well,
mean,
that's what I
back
was
at the
going to say.
time,
Like, I'm just
people had
hoping we get some
jobs.
questions, you know?
Hmm
So get your
And
questions ready, people. We got
guys,
22,
we got 22
23
people.
viewers. We
There
need
are no dumb
at
questions.
least, if we can at least get like a 30% yield on questions here, and
We
have
should.
like six to seven questions coming in that we could go through and answer. It's going to be
Yeah,
excellent.
right.
So Dave, tell
Let's.
me about what's going on in old New York right now. How much has this been affecting you guys in Buffalo? Obviously, we know New York City is getting
New
drilled.
York is drilled bad, but that's because population there is just out of control. In Buffalo, it's for those of you who don't know, if we're looking at a map of New York State, New York City is here, and Buffalo's over here. So I'm over here. I'm about 6 hours. No, I'm about 8 hour drive away.
Yeah.
So not too bad. A lot of local stores, a lot of local businesses are all closed up, right? So
Mm-hmm.
non-essential businesses are closed. Um, Grocery stores are limiting the amount of people that are coming in. You're only when you're waiting in line, like they're holding people 50 feet away from the registers, and then they're letting like they're radioing each other when someone can go, and they're telling you where to go.
Oh wow.
You stand behind the line. They're taking it pretty seriously because I think we had a couple hundred confirmed cases here.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who's a radiological technician, so she does X-rays,
Mm-hmm.
and she was telling me that like she has to X-ray people that are positive. She's got to X-ray their lungs,
Mm-hmm.
and she's saying how like there's a 30-year-old man who was testing positive, and he's having a really bad cough, and he contracted the coronavirus because he went to New York City for his 30th birthday party last week.
Mm.
And I was like, man, like, come on. Like that's
Probably bad news.
like yeah, like not a good idea. But otherwise, like since I'm a single employee, I'm technically exempt from the closures.
Yeah.
And I sort of backed off on private lessons. I used to do like 2 or 3 a day, and now I'm gonna trying to do like one a day, if that. We're only working
Yeah.
outside. I'm sanitizing everything. I got my little alcohol spray.
Yeah.
Like just doing my necessary precautions. But like
Yeah.
you know how it is when you're working dogs all day. You just like I go to Starbucks and I go through the drive-through anyway. So
Yeah.
like it's whatever.
Yeah. Luckily slash unlucky, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like my day-to-day routines have not changed a whole lot. Like, if anything, we're working more right now because we have
Mhm.
less people at the shop, obviously, to help with a lot of the day-to-day things. So we're
Yeah.
kind of trying to kind of really hold down fort over there. We're starting this week to get back into a few one-on-one sessions.
Mhm.
Not anywhere near as many as we can, but primarily because it's been so nice out, we're able to stay outdoors. Like
Yeah.
yesterday I had one-on-one lesson that I did 100% outside. We use separate leashes and everything, safe,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And
Attach the
it
log
worked
line to
out
the
fine.
dog. Yeah.
So I don't know, it's wild times.
It's weird. I was I mean it was scary when I first heard about this because I just assumed that
Sure.
everybody's like, all right, well I'm gonna cancel because like
Yeah.
I want to spend this kind of money now.
Yeah.
I've had a few people postpone board and trains because I'm sure you do deposits for board and trains, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you hold your spot. And I'm like, had a few little things like, hey guys, like just so you know, deposits as it states in the contract that you signed are non-refundable. Like I'll hold your spot forever.
Sure.
Like
Yeah, you can do it at any point.
any
Yeah,
point in
yeah.
time,
Any point
and
you want to do it. You want to do
any point you
it
want to do
a
it.
year from now, go for it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a
So
messy situation.
yeah,
Luckily, we haven't you know, like I said, because the board and trains are operating as normal and stuff right now, you know, we've had a couple people want to move to a later date just because they were trying to line it up with a vacation or something. But
Yeah, I had one of those, which is fine.
everybody's
That's fine. I get it.
much
You know,
more.
you want to go on a tropical vacation, I'll take care of your dog. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I see we got one question. I
We got
just
a couple.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
All right.
Ooh, so we got to
what are you seeing?
I just saw this one question it's addressed to David, and I
Oh.
want to be we got to be very clear. We're both David.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
D1 and D2.
Yeah, we're both going to answer it anyway, so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's roll through some of these.
Yeah, what do we got?
Okay, first one here. Wait, hold on. All right. Love your work and so impressed by the progress with the pups you work with. We've got a 2.5-year-old pit mix who would definitely benefit from you, but we're up in Rhode Island. Well, first off, luckily Rhode Island has a very good dog trainer. Solid Canine Training. Hit them up.
They do.
Jeff Gilman will get you situated. So you can contact them. They'll assist you. But, you know, again, 2.5-year-old pit mix, you know, you're not really specifying what the issues you're having are. But one common thing that I noticed when I was doing my last Q&A was just, like, really just getting this understanding and trying to get out to people that a lot of this stuff isn't rocket science, right? Why are you rolling? Look at that face. I don't know.
Hi, old man.
With me right now. I left them all at the shop. But Dave, I'm sure you can attest to this. Like, not a lot of this is rocket science, right?
No.
I mean, like, it looks intimidating and it looks scary. And I think most of the problem is I think a lot of people are really scared. I think a lot of people are scared of the tools because, you know, they have such negative connotations, places and things like that. So, like, you know, most people outside of the basics of, like, let's get some treats and, like, teach our dog to sit and down and, you know, just teach tricks essentially, are very, very intimidated to dive into anything else for the fear of ruining their dog or messing something up or this or that. And I could tell you just from having clients that come in that have either tried all this stuff on their own and with no direction, right? Not even like videos of how to do things appropriately, or, you know, clients that have come in who have been to numerous other trainers who have all trained in different fashions. Like, I've seen dogs that have had so much confusion from the inconsistencies and the different things people have tried and the different things all these other trainers have tried, and they all turn out fine in the end, right? Like, they don't get messed up. They don't get messed up long term. The worst that happens is, you know, you do something a little bit wrong and the dog gets confused temporarily and you don't really progress in that training session with the dog. But they're not getting ruined, right? They could so easily bounce back from that kind of stuff. That I really want to start kind of encouraging people, especially in this, like, quarantine time where people are, like, afraid to, like, go out and, you know, maybe go to a dog training facility, or they maybe legally can't even go to a dog training facility or anything like that. You know, you could start doing some of this stuff on your own. And that's why the second we got announced this quarantine, Dave, we put Josh, our video guy, we put him on full time, and we're doing, like, daily instructional videos we're trying to post on YouTube and stuff, because, like, some of this stuff, I mean, like, we're able to get these dogs to do things over the course of, like, 5-10 minutes, right? Like, and it's like, wow, like, this dog came in, like, I have a video I'm going to be posting today of this 150-pound Rottweiler that's just like a big butt head that we just got in. That, you know, like 10 minutes, and we have him from, like, marking on literally everything in my facility and, like, reacting at dogs and stuff like that, to, like, walking nice on a leash, right? And, you know, it's just not, it's not that hard, right? So to kind of get back to your question, Jeff, you know, obviously, first and foremost, I always recommend getting professional help if you could afford it and if it's feasible, right? You're always going to get better results doing it that way. But if you're not in a position to do that, I would highly recommend starting to try to work through some of this stuff on your own. And there's so much information out there on how to do it. Like I said, we have a lot of YouTube videos and DIY stuff. And, you know, most dog trainers, though we may seem intimidating and stuff online and through the social media, because we have, like, resting bitch face all the time, I feel like.
We're tired.
Tattoos and, like, look scary.
Yeah,
we're pretty nice and, like, scared of the world and want to answer everybody's questions, you know. So just,
we just want to help, really.
Specific questions. So,
yeah.
Do you find that the problem really is, like, people are just like, intimidated to start with things.
Yeah, there's a lot of it is people. The one thing we have to get over too is like our dogs aren't made of glass. I tell
Mm-hmm.
people that all the time, right? Like you're not going to break your dog, but you're also not going to ruin your dog.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff comes down to just setting it up, setting yourself up for success. Like you don't have to change your environment completely, like say like a Susan Garrett, like name drop, right? If
Sure.
you guys read a Susan Garrett book, you'd be like, wow, Susan Garrett can do all this stuff. Yeah, but she changes her environment to suit the dog.
Mm.
A lot of people don't have that luxury. So like things like this, like Roland's on top of me right now, and he likes to be close to me. And a lot of people don't realize, like, if I don't want him on me, I'm literally going to take him and move him off of me. Like,
Mhm.
so let's put that in. I remember going to a client's house and the dog was on top of the couch chewing it and like right in front of both of us. And like, we can't stop this. We don't know what to do. And if you can imagine what I did, I went, no.
Yeah.
And I
You
just
have to
pushed
get
the
off.
dog off. Like, you
Yeah.
got to get off the couch. And the dog was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, just tell him you can't do that.
Yep.
Because that's how it goes. You're just not allowed to do that. But
Yep.
like, I'll always advocate for something like using a remote collar. Seek professional help for something like that. Now there are a ton of videos online, and there are books about that. Like, in my opinion, I would say like do your best to like get a professional for sort of stuff like that. But like teaching your dog how to do the place command using food and even the leash, like that's
Yeah.
something I would encourage everybody to just try.
Sure.
Even if your marking's not perfect, even if your pressure is not that great, your use of the leash isn't that great, your dog is smart enough to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. And like that's the thing that's just like, especially if you've got the time now, just
Yeah.
do it.
You
And
can crank through stuff. Yeah, for
and
sure.
guess what? Like I don't know about you personally, but like if you shoot me a message on my Instagram, I'm gonna answer it.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, hey, I don't know what to do in this situation, like blah blah blah, you're gonna get 3 paragraphs back because
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be helpful. Like
Yeah.
I know stuff,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna tell you.
Exactly. We want to be able to assist where we can, and a part of that is just, I think, encouraging to just get started. So, like to your
Absolutely.
point, like obviously the remote collar is a little bit more difficult than other things, but like even stuff like basic leash and prong work with food, like that is a very simple concept to start teaching
Oh,
your dog.
so easy.
Right? You can get cruising on that so quickly. If you feel inclined to, you can get started with remote collar stuff. It's like there's a lot of opportunity to be able to work through certain issues. Another one that I see all the time, you're bringing up the example of like dogs on the couch and like people,
Yeah.
not wanting to physically move the dog off. And then, the first time you go to do it, they're like, oh my gosh, like my dog never gets off when I ask them to. How did they do that? Right. And, we see all the time the same deal with dogs that won't walk on a leash, right? Or won't walk upstairs and stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Right? You see people all the time. They got the dog on a leash, right? They walk up to the stairs. They walk up to the doorway. They do whatever, right? The brakes are on, right? Like not moving a muscle, nothing happening, right? And I'm just like, all right, now start moving, right? Let's get the feet going. This is
start walking.
Not even leash and prong or anything, right? We haven't even started any training with dogs. Like, all right, come on, like launch it, bring the dog on in, right? And instead of just walking and getting the dog moving with them, they'll pick the dog up, right? They'll carry the dog into place. Because again, they have this aversion to, like you were saying, that their dog is made of glass, right? They're going to break their dog if they just start physically walking through that threshold, right? And honestly, like these little things and these things that we're so afraid to try new things or just kind of push our dog a little bit past their comfort zone is why we're unintentionally creating these overly fearful dogs. We're creating these overly resistant or dogs with a lot of opposition and stuff like that, and we're doing absolutely nothing to build their confidence. Because when dogs are scared of things and we don't push them past that fear, they learn that thing that they're scared of is a relevant fear, right? Is something they should be afraid of, and it builds on itself, right?
It's okay. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Right? Like
exactly. Where you go through these steps of, I know as the leader, right? You use the term the alpha, the leader, whatever. I know that this thing is not scary, right? I know stairs are not scary. I know walking through doorways are not scary. I know hardwood floors are not scary. So I am going to push you past that point as your leader, and I'm going to show you by getting you to do that thing you're scared of that it's not scary, so you could realize it's not scary, which will build your confidence, right?
I tell people
the more you get that push, the easier it gets and the more confident they get. So
lead your dog. Lead
Yeah.
your dog. We're gonna do this together. Look, I know it's scary, but we're gonna go do it together.
Oh, Jesus,
Like,
Dave. I don't know if you're keeping up, but we got a lot of questions now.
oh no, I'm not. It
Oh,
stopped
yeah.
scrolling because I
Yeah.
scrolled on it, but
We
like,
all, we're, we're still stuck on question one.
oh yeah,
Jesus.
Jesus Christ. Ugh. We'll get there. We'll get there,
Yeah,
guys. I
we're getting there. We
promise.
got time. We're
Yeah,
in
yeah.
no rush. Anyways, good. What were you going to say?
I was just saying, like, I tell people all the time, like, when I say lead your dog, and like we all
Mhm.
talk about leadership, and you've got to lead the dog. We don't like. I don't like the term alpha. Like, we're not being the alpha of the pack, whatever. Like, I'm leading my dog, and like I'm gonna lead my dog through that pressure. So like, I know something we can both relate to is like training dogs for competition, like
Mhm.
training Vin for Monio Ring and like Oki. Like, there's things that are terrifying at first, right?
Sure.
Like the one that comes to mind is like putting the food in the kiddie pool full of soda cans
Oh,
and
yeah.
bottles, and the
Mhm.
dog's like, "Yo, no, 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 I can't do
Hard
that.
fast.
No, definitely no." And then it's like, "But that's where your food is." So then I hop in the pool, and then the puppy goes, "Oh shit, you jumped in there? Oh yeah, let's get in." And then all of a sudden the dog's like, "Oh my God, there's food in here too." Like, yeah, look, we're in this together. It's all good, right? Like, this thing was averse to going into any sort of water.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, dude. And I walked in the water and he was like, I guess I'll just follow you. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden he's like, oh, there's more things for me to rip up in here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Then boom, there we go. Now he loves water.
Yeah, and the kiddie pool is a good one. I mean, that's one that we used to use all the time to help build confidence in dogs.
Oh, yeah.
You would put food and stuff like that. Essentially, you take a kiddie pool, right, and you would put bottles or different pool noodles and stuff that's going to make a lot of weird noises as the dog's clunking through it, right? And what that does is that helps counter condition dogs to things like that startle them, right? So we'll see a lot of times dogs will get on a bed, and if the bed will scoot back a little bit, they'll freak and they'll jump off of it and they'll refuse to get back onto that bed because they're not conditioned to these noises and working past those types of things, right?
Absolutely.
And there's two frames of thought going into any of these things, right? You always have your methods of being able to either coax your dog in with something they want, right? So in the case of highly motivated dogs, like putting things like treats or food or kibble or whatever into that and kind of getting them to build their confidence by going in to get a little piece, going in to get a little piece, going in to get a little piece, or things like if your dog is just minimally food motivated and no matter what they're not just going to get it on their own, use a combination of that with like a leash, right, where you can guide the dog in the second they get a little bit in. Good, yes, right.
Yeah.
Reward them for it, make a big party out of it, and just again, it's the same concept, little by little, pushing them past that comfort zone to build their confidence ultimately. So,
Absolutely.
all right, Dave.
All right, what do we
Why don't
got
you lead this
next?
one? This one's from Precision Canine. He's
Yeah.
from Texas. You're from Texas, right? He's a dog trainer. He was traveling like cross country and stopped at the facility to say hi once. Very nice guy.
Interesting.
What are the
Hello.
hardest challenges of transitioning a dog back into their home? Dave,
Ah.
lead the way.
All right. The hardest challenge I assume you're referring to back from a board and train program or a state and train program. The biggest, most challenging, most difficult thing is making sure the owners are being consistent. Very little of it has to do with the dog because the dog, if you're doing everything right as the trainer, the dog knows what to do with you there. It's
Mm-hmm.
making sure that we can relay the information to the owners and making sure they understand that like these I want to like I have a go home sheet that I send everybody with specific instructions that these instructions are to be followed literally. So when I say
To a T. No
to a
exemptions.
T, no
No.
exceptions, none, right? Like, so when it says like your dog should be doing one of four things for the next week, should be in place, practicing obedience, in its crate, or resting calmly with you. Like, that's it. That's it. That doesn't mean throw your dog in the yard and let him go. That's exactly what it doesn't mean, right? The hardest, the hardest part is for me is letting someone know like you just have to do this. And look, I know it sucks because you just got your dog back. You want to snuggle. You want to have that time with them, but like their success depends on you following these rules.
Yep. Why? How do you explain to them why it is so important that you take that strict approach initially when coming home?
I tell them, I approach it saying like, look, your dog has just been through a very intense program. So the intensity of the board and train, I explain to the clients, like your dog has little to zero free time. Like if your dog has free time, it's because I'm scooping poop in the yard and they're playing with my dog.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your dog is working or your dog is resting in the crate. There is no time in which your dog is practicing bad behavior.
Sure.
So I say that, look, it's important that now that your dog's adjusting back to its home life, it doesn't get to go back to its old home life, because the old home life was more than likely an issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's use the example of the couch near the window, right? The dog's always on the couch barking out the window.
Mm-hmm.
So just because your dog learned a bunch of cool stuff and learned how to behave and act like a gentleman or a lady with me, doesn't mean that the dog's going to automatically go back in the house and be like, there's my favorite couch to sit on, and there's
Mm-hmm.
that sweet window I like to bark out of, right? That's not how connections work, right? Contextual learning does not mean that, right? That's not contextual learning. The dog learns that it certainly can't do that at my house, but of course, if we're following these guidelines, like if your dog's on place, your dog can't be on the couch barking out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you put your dog on place on the couch, which I specifically tell people don't do that, because
It's a
I'm like,
bad idea.
yeah, it's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea.
Don't do that.
I would be lying if I said I didn't use like my ottoman like at the foot of my chair as it sometimes, but
Oh, yes.
we have a little bit higher of a degree of control over our dogs where it's not going to become a problem. Now, your dog, just like dogs have associations with people and places, physical spaces can mean a lot to dogs as well, which means that if your dog is on your furniture in general, and I don't with every dog enforce like your dog can't be on the furniture, because like I said, like my dogs come up on the furniture. I think there's some dogs that can get away with it, some dogs that can't.
Absolutely.
But others, their whole demeanor changes when they're in these places, right? It emboldens them. It builds this degree of like confidence to rehearse certain behaviors where like some just can't handle it initially. So
some
having
literally
a
can't do that.
place and a lower spot closer to the ground that's their own spot that is new to them can help reduce a lot of that for sure. So
100%.
That's a funny point. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see some people do that too. Like I guess I don't specifically say that in the Send Home lessons not to do that, but like we've had some people just like, we go to do a follow-up or something and they're doing it. I'm like, no, don't do that.
No. Like that's exactly why I specifically say that, because I had that happen way too many times. I was like, you know what? I feel like this is my fault.
Yeah.
I should specify better.
You know what's another funny one that I've had to put in my Send Home lessons because it started to become a problem? So I tell everybody specifically, or actually I'll start. So one day we sent a dog home from a board and train. This is what sparked it. And the owner called us like 2 days later, like extremely concerned. She was like, I think something's wrong with my dog. And I was like, what is it? What's going on? They're like, all he's doing is sleeping. So I had to go about the process of explaining that dogs don't realize how exhausting being at the board and train is until they're no longer at the board and train.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I need to specify to everybody right now, like your dog will sleep for the next 48 hours, right? Like literally, like sometimes won't even move. Like situations where you're used to the dog getting jacked up, like they're going to do absolutely nothing because they're going to be so dead tired, right? The constant stimulation of the environment and stuff like that.
That's funny.
It's just too much. But it was funny. It was one of those things where, like I said, we saw it and it started to become a problem.
Right.
And sorry, we got a cat down here making some noises.
Oh yeah, I got one of the board and trains is she's got a bone in the rough tuft with her, and she's just rolling around, and I'm like, whoa. Like I forget to take those out when I go to sleep sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, just to the part of transitioning a dog back into their home, like everything you said is exactly what I would say. The only way that I typically will word it to people is my job for the first week of coaching you through this, like for the first week dog's home, is to remove contrast, right? And no matter what, like dog going from facility to home, there's an immediate contrast in environment. There's an immediate contrast in the people, right? There's an immediate contrast in general, right? So if it goes from that immediate contrast shift to all of these other things also of like more free time, furniture privileges, too much love and affection, like all of those things together, the more contrast there is, the harder it is going to be for the dog to retain all of that training. So I say it's great that your dog is back in the home and but you've already lived without them for 4 weeks, right? Let's spend 1 more week pretending the dog is gone, but you still have the benefit of you could look and see how cute your dog looks like laying on the bed over in the corner.
It's like an angel.
That's it. Perfect angel. Just laying there behaving itself. But you can't do all those other things. And then little by little, as the dog earns them, we add them back in, obviously.
Absolutely. That's just pretty much it, yeah.
All right, cruising through.
Cruising
From
through.
Jeff as well. Is the person we just talked about, training your
Yeah,
dog in Rhode Island. Tips for reactivity with bikes and scooters. I answered this one like 17 times the other day in my Q&A.
I bet.
Reactivity boils down to a couple of steps. One, leash walking needs to be perfect. Like I'm not talking just good, right?
Perfect.
I'm talking perfect. Your dog cannot be trying to sniff things. Your dog cannot be approaching people and dogs and things like that out on the walk. They need to be minding their own business in a relaxed state of mind in a heel position or behind you, however you're teaching it. And from there, once you have that criteria set and you have your dog essentially perfect with that position, you can hold them accountable for anything other than that position, right? So if they're reacting, and reacting would assume leaving that position to do that, you would be able to utilize the communication you've established, whether remote collar, or pet corrector, or leash and prong, or bonker, or whatever you want to use to be able to hold it to that criteria. Jeff, we have like a 3-part YouTube series on teaching your dog to walk perfectly with you. If you're not going to use a professional trainer, like we talked about earlier, it's not rocket science. You can get it done on your own. I promise it's very simple. Buy the tools, follow the steps to a T. Those videos are completely unedited, first, second, and third session of perfecting the walk. So go through those to a T.
That's
Really.
a good point. I was editing videos. I think it's really important that we don't edit videos because I want people to see,
If
like,
they're
yeah, so
DIY,
yeah,
yeah,
like
you
absolutely,
gotta see the mistakes,
you
right?
gotta see that dogs resist. The little Roddy I have in board and train,
Mm-hmm.
I had to switch that little girl to a slip lead because that girl just felt a tiny bit of pressure and was like, I'm gonna just
Mm-hmm.
gator roll and scream. How's that? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Like, I feel like that's important for people to see, like, because I don't know how your dog's gonna react when I put it on a collar. I don't, but I
Yep.
have to deal with it, and you're gonna have to deal with it too. It's important that people see that sometimes dogs can get a little wild out there,
Yep.
you know. I just saw one that was a pretty interesting one from Tim Ander.
Where
Is
you
that
at?
chart? Tim, I'm right.
Oh, you're
Uh,
going way down.
is
Yeah.
that down? Is that
What do you
down? All right.
recommend? Oh, wait. I think that one was asked twice. Hold on.
Oh,
Hold on. I'm bouncing around here. Pause. Half second. Hold on. Hold on.
pause.
I was a lot of scrolling. Yeah. So
Yeah,
this was asked twice. Um,
that's a good one.
David, what do you recommend for an aggressive dog introducing to a baby?
So
Go.
here's where I like to use, I tell people words matter. Aggressive dog introducing to a baby.
Yes.
Don't. Do
Yes.
not introduce your dog to your baby.
Mm-hmm.
Here is where we can go back to the walking perfectly thing. Your dog must be able to exist in your home with things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that means for me, hey, there's a crying baby over there. What does that mean to you, dog? It means nothing. It means
Zero.
I need you to go lay over there and go on your dog bed. So one of the last things you're going to want to do with an aggressive dog is
Introduce it to a baby.
here, look at it, smell it, right? Like
I
that
like
is
the point of view here.
that, like that's exactly right. So that's here's a better one. Like look at it, right? Like that, and your dog goes, Jesus, like what are you doing? I don't want that.
Yeah.
I get a lot of lessons that people are like, hey, my wife's 6 months pregnant, my wife's 4 months pregnant, and our dog's not good with people. So we want to do some lessons now to get him comfortable with people. So when the baby comes, and now those people, their kids are walking now, and those kids are walking those dogs because
Yep.
they did exactly what I said, which was, don't let your dog near your baby.
Yeah.
Keep your dog. Do what you do with your dog.
It's
Do
not
what you
fair.
do with your baby. They
It's
don't.
your
They
baby.
don't.
It's your dog.
That's
You
it.
create that distance.
That's it. Your dog does not walk freely in your house. And if your baby's on the floor crawling or something, like, oh God, no. Like your dog should be in a crate or in a pen, or like I won't even say put your dog on place, because if your baby's crawling to your dog, that's just not a good idea.
Yes, I am completely with you on that. And one thing that what's funny is this morning I got a call from a client that did a board and train, I think like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I haven't seen the dog in a while. They're from like the Kentucky area.
Cool.
And she recently had a baby, and the baby is I'll be honest, I don't know how old at this point. I want to say like 6 months, somewhere around there. Anyways,
it's baby.
So she was a little concerned because this dog had a history of human aggression issues, and her baby just started. She followed all of the steps to a T for first like month that the baby was home, as far as just
perfect.
separate, you don't have to have them together. There's no introduction. Everything was great. There was no problems. But now the baby's starting to crawl, right? And she was a little concerned because when the baby was starting to crawl, she started noticing her dog just getting uncomfortable. Nothing bad. The dog wasn't doing anything. Just like kind of stiffing and and stuff. And usually what I say is there are 2 stages to introducing your dog to children. And by introducing, I just mean acclimating, right? Getting them used to being around them. The first step is right when the baby gets home, when they're getting used to the smells, the sights, the change of routines, right? All of those different things that the dog is going to be experiencing having something new in the house, right? Stage number 2 is when that child starts becoming an active part of all of your day-to-day routines, right? They're not like in their pen all the time or their crib all the time or in their little rocker all the time or in your hands all the time. They're going to be, what?
Roland stepped on me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, typical.
But they're gonna be moving around more. They're gonna be doing things. They're gonna be playing, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
When that point hits, everything starts changing again, right? People look at this process of children getting acclimated to dogs, particularly dogs that have a history of having issues, and they think of it as like one sequential thing, right?
Yeah.
Where there's stages, right? And each stage, it's like generalizing your dog's commands, right? To new places. Each stage, you have to re-generalize things. Keep getting paused here. I don't know what's going on. All right. So stage number 1, right? Baby first comes home. Stage 2, baby starts crawling. Stage 3, child starts talking and walking, right? Each one of those stages, I'll kind of restart back from square one. And I'll go back to the no physical contact, just get them used to seeing and experiencing and smelling until they're comfortable. Then I'll start loosening up on that criteria. Stage 2 comes around. You go back to the beginning. No physical contact, always in command around the child, right? Then I'll loosen up as they start to get comfortable with that criteria. Stage 3, same process. And then usually once you're past those 2 to 3 stages, you're kind of in the clear, right? But obviously you still need to maintain that degree of supervising and watching and stuff. And as long as you're strict about that, like we've seen dogs that are really human aggressive that have been able to successfully be around children, right? But you have to look at it in those stages and start from square one each time so that you're allowing the dog to get reacclimated to all of this new stuff each time, right?
Shout out to Josh.
Josh Moran?
No, not Josh Moran. One of my clients, Josh. Him and his wife have a dog named Riley.
Yeah.
I feel like her name's Sarah, and I'm sorry if it's not Sarah. I'm pretty sure it's Sarah. But they have a dog, Riley, who's pretty human aggressive, and they started with me when she was 5 months pregnant, and now they follow me on Instagram, so I see their posts, and like they've got their daughter like holding the leash while Riley's walking down.
Yeah.
And it's like they literally did exactly what I said to a T. And
you have to play the long game with that stuff. Right?
It's a marathon.
It is a marathon with dogs and babies. It's a marathon with aggression in general, right? Aggression is one that's not like jumping, where your dog can either be jumping or not be jumping.
Yeah. There's
There's
many in between.
There's so much in between with that. You got to play the long game with it. And yeah, you could absolutely hit that point where when the child is, old enough and big enough to be able to just like comprehend your direction, just like the dog needs to comprehend your direction, like to a T, then you could successfully manage your pack, right? And if your pack includes a child, 2 children, 2 dogs, any combination of the 2, you can go with that. Now, one last point on that, just because I don't think we touched on this. This is under the assumption your dog is trained.
Yeah,
right?
that's important.
None of this applies if your dog does not have a solid concrete training.
If your dog is not trained, seek out professional training. Now, one thing I do tell people all the time, when I say seek out professional training, I feel like it's very important. As a member of the International Association of Canine Professionals, the IACP, I have access to a directory of trainers in the entire world that are members of the IACP. That means I can actually vet that trainer that I recommend, which I have done and I will do. So shoot me a message if you need to find a good trainer in your area, and I will find somebody for you. Yeah.
Luckily, I feel like a lot of dog trainers have a lot of friends that are dog trainers, and you kind of know who to recommend for the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is good if you have somebody you know and trust, and maybe they're not accessible or whatever, just ask for a recommendation. I don't think very many of us have too huge of an ego where we're not going to, point you in the right direction with things. So All right, moving down the
Absolutely.
list.
Yeah.
Hollister 003.
Oh, yeah,
We have a
right.
3-year-old French Bulldog mix who has hip dysplasia. I've been working on some basic commands with him that I see in your video, but the vet told us not to make him sit a lot. What can we do instead of a sit command? And he still has his full tail. Do French Bulldogs have long tails?
No,
Do you?
I think that was little, like, looks like a pigtail,
Oh, yeah, you might be right.
right? I mean, I
All
feel like
right,
we should know this, but
yeah. Um, Dogs that have really bad hips and stuff, I definitely like. There are certain dogs that physically I know are just not capable of doing some of the things that I'll teach all dogs, and depending on how serious that is, I will heavily cater my expectation because of that. Right? We had a dog we sent home recently, Barney, who was like 7 or 8 years old, and he just had terrible. I mean, like you could tell. Like anytime you'd ask this dog to do anything, it just looked like painful for him
like
to do.
adjusting to sit and stuff
Yeah,
like that. Like,
it was rough. So particularly with the down, we noticed that like just getting into a down was too hard, like getting up and down from it. So we just taught a sit with him. If I can't teach a sit, which I've had a couple of dogs that I couldn't do that with, I'll just work on recall and bed or place, right? Whatever
yeah,
you want to call it. You know what I mean? Because that doesn't involve getting into any sort of awkward or uncomfortable physical positions. It simply is go to this spot or go to this spot. Once you get there, you want to stand, you want to sit, you want to down, you want to do whatever is most comfortable for you. Go for it,
by
right?
all means. Yep.
You know, like we're not teaching 9,000 different. Your dog doesn't need to know 15,000 different commands. The commands are just to facilitate communication, right? The commands allow us to be able to get our dog into, to be able to let them know what we want and what we don't want, and then to help guide them in some sort of direction of what's a more appropriate choice, right? So just
Well,
loosen your criteria, right? Just
that's
just
all.
focus on those two things, right? Leash walking, bed, and
Gotta have a
recall,
good recall.
right? What
Yeah,
else does your dog need to know, right?
not much.
Not
I
a
mean,
whole lot.
a perfect example that I want to hop in there is like a lot of people train their dogs to sit at the
Mm-hmm.
door, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you sit at the door and your butt stays in the ground while the door opens. Well, here's a perfect example of a dog that can't do that or shouldn't
Yep.
be doing that, right? Because we don't want him to hurt his hips.
Mm-hmm.
Just teach your dog to respect the boundary. Just because I open the door doesn't mean you get to go through it. Wait for a cue. Wait for me to say like, all right, man, cool, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah.
Teach,
No, I'm
loosen
totally
that
with you on
criteria.
that.
I
I
actually
actually,
stopped teaching sitting at the door because of that. I just
yeah,
respect the threshold. That's all.
I was gonna say that I had a like a stretch of training packages and one-on-one packages and stuff that I was doing where like we didn't do any sort of stationary positions with that kind of stuff. We just said when I open the door, just don't rush through it.
Yeah, that's all. Just don't
And
do
it's
that.
almost more of a clear criteria to the dog when you do it that way, because if you give a correction for them rushing through the criteria, that correction is specifically for crossing that boundary, as opposed to if you
Mm-hmm.
put them in a sit and open the door and correct for that. The correction is really just for breaking the sit. It has nothing to do with
Right.
the boundary. You know what I mean?
It's too much.
Yeah. So it could be way more simple. So real quick before we answer this one, which I'm going to have you lead on. Do you have any recommendations or know of a good trainer in North Carolina? Lots of Daves. There's a
Lots of
lot of
days.
good Daves. Okay, so Dave Myers in Charlotte, North Carolina, his company is called Allegiant Canines. Dave is fantastic. I have known Dave for a very long time. Never actually met him before, but him and I have been exchanging phone calls, emails, text messages for probably 4 or 5 years now. Wonderful trainer, has an awesome in-home board and train program that he does, and he gets some really, really awesome results. Hit that guy up.
Cool.
Dave, were you going to say something?
No, I would say I'd have to look up North Carolina because I don't know anybody off the
Dave's
top
the
of my
man.
head.
Dave is the man. All
Right.
right. Where's your dog supposed to go when someone comes into your home? On stairs, in another room? How do we introduce them to the people who do come in? Why don't you start that one?
All right. Well, let's assume your dog has zero issues with people, right? We're under the assumption that there's no issues with people. I don't care. No. What I would do if my dog has a history of rushing up to people and jumping on them and being a butthead about it, the bed command, the place command, that's a really good idea. Again, on their dog bed would be ideal. I suppose you could use the stairs for place. In this case, the use of the place or the bed command is simply to make sure your dog's out of the way, right? Make sure your dog's out of the way and not mugging somebody at the door. I often tell people depending on what stage of training you're in, your dog's not going to be able to hold the place command while you're not in a different room. Or
Yep.
if you don't practice specifically someone knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, because the doorbell is mostly just a trigger for your dog to lose its mind anyway. So yeah, obviously I make sure we're training that. But I tell people keep a dog bed somewhere within eyeshot, right? Like depending on how your house is set up, most houses your door doesn't lead in, like your dog, if your front door leads into a 2x2 mudroom, don't put a dog bed in there. But like doors are usually close to the living room. Put the
Yep.
dog bed in the living room and your dog should go there. If your dog has zero problems with people, like for an example, what I could do if someone comes to my house is I can make my dog sit next to me. Yeah, someone's here, right? Like sometimes, like when deliveries come to the house or they're in, and the dogs are interested, like, oh, who's walking on the porch? I'll just say, hey, sit. And then he sits down. Ultimately, it's really up to you, but my suggestion would be somewhere out away from your guest.
Yeah.
Assuming also your guest is cool with dogs. Like if I'm having a stranger come into my house, most oftentimes I'll put my dogs on place and then I'll say, are you okay with dogs? Like, are you comfortable with dogs? If we have work being done on the house, like if there's contractors coming in, they just go in a crate. Like you got to be out of
Bingo. Yeah.
just go away. You got to be out of, like you just, it's safer
Those
for
people
the
don't
dog.
need to worry about you using them as a
Yeah.
training
When
opportunity.
if the guy's installing the internet, just put your dog in the crate.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason to have your dog there. Just and then how do we introduce them to people who come in? Well, we could spend from 456 to 556 talking about that and all
Yeah.
the variables. To be quick about it, you don't. You don't. That person, let's assume that person is a new person coming into your house. Your dog's never met them before. Don't put your dog on place. Put your dog in the crate. Doesn't need to meet them. If you're let's say your dog has aggression issues, something like that, just put the dog out of the way, right? If your dog's cool with people, put them on place. And then after your dog is calm and in a way better state of mind than the doorbell rang, I'm going to freak out and lose my mind, then just release your dog and say, all right, do what you do, man. Of course, like hypothetically, the dog in this scenario is a well-adjusted dog, right? Like, for example, if it's Roland, someone comes in, most of the time I just tell him place, get out of the way. And then after he's calmed down for 2 seconds, I go, all right, dude, break. And he goes out, sniffs the person. He goes, cool. I'm more interested in that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. My general routine for how I recommend like guests coming over is like you were saying, if the dog has aggression issues, typically I would just put them away for something like this. Or if I know they have a good bed command or place command, I'll have them hold that like back tied somewhere or something with a leash just to get them out and about, because obviously we want to work towards that goal. But in general, typically my routine is first and foremost, if they're freaking out at the door, I'll either just give a correction for the freaking out of the door. So I'll stop that behavior first because I don't want to use the obedience. Like my goal with having people come over is not to use bed to stop my dog from doing things, right? The goal is just to make things less annoying more than anything. You know what I mean?
Ultimately.
Right? I would say like it shouldn't be when guests are coming over like the Vinny show or the Vera show or whatever. Like it's my guests are coming over to see me, and then my dogs can interact if they're going to do so in an appropriate way, right? But I'll correct for the freaking out initially. I'll call them over to their bed command. I'll put them in that position. I'll let my guests in, and then I'll let things just settle down for 5-10 minutes, right? Let them get their coats off, get them a drink, let them sit down, say hi, right? Once things settle down, as Dave said, release them, let them hang out. And at that point, any sort of nonsense like jumping or getting too pushy or something, you would just correct for as you need to, right? So, my goal with my dogs is to have a dog that I have to micromanage as little as possible, right? So realistically, yes, in a perfect world, I should be able to just have my guests walk into my house and know my dogs aren't going to rush out that front door, jump all over them, or do anything crazy. But again, so I would be striving for that goal of, I don't have to use bed to stop my dog from jumping on people. I've addressed that already. But like I said, I'm just getting them out of the way to make it, if they're carrying food in, if they're having a party or something, they're just not tripping over everybody, right?
Yeah.
Especially in a house, I have 4 dogs, right? My people don't want 4 big dogs rushing up to them all the time, right? And there are times, depending on how many times the people have come over to my house, how well they know my dogs, that my dogs will stay in bed the entire time, as you said as well, right? Thanksgiving time, my girlfriend and I went back to Connecticut, and during Thanksgiving dinner, while some of the extended family were there and stuff, They were in a bed stay for probably 3 hours.
Yep.
They didn't move. It's fine. I would say that's better than them sitting in a crate, right?
Agreed. At least they're
You
doing
know,
something.
they're being a part of things, right?
Absolutely.
So that's my routine for it. Make sure they're not freaking out. Have them hold that bed stay while people are coming in. Once they calm down, release them, correct for any nonsense at that point, or just leave them on bed. Up to you. If they have aggression issues, when you get to the point where you're releasing them, on muzzle always until you have like 100% trust.
There's another one about also had some issues. Jeff, issues with socialization recently after getting bit at a dog park. When you previously had minimal problems, like that'd be like, oof.
Talk on that one.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, that's why we don't do that, right? Your dog. Here's the catch-22, right? Your dog needs socialization, right? Your dog needs to interact with other dogs and be able to kind of express that outlet and stuff like that. But your dog doesn't need so much socialization that you are putting them in situations that you're running a risk, right? So once a month, a socialization like play date with a friend or something like that is more than enough, right? You don't have to be going to the dog park. You don't have to be going to untrustworthy doggy daycares and stuff like that, because when you don't know the other dogs that are at the dog park, or you don't fully trust the staff at the doggy daycare to be able to address issues as they come up, if your dog gets into a squabble or something like that, you're going to start to create this negative association with other dogs, and it's going to make it harder to introduce them next time. So I only socialize when I have dogs that I know and trust, when I have owners that are going to be somewhat competent in understanding the rules and stipulations that I have with things. I'm going to make sure that I have nothing out that's going to make any sort of problems. So no toys, no food. I don't do any affection when I'm socializing with new dogs. Your job is to play lifeguard in that situation, right? Your job is not to be best buddies with those dogs. Your job is to supervise, make sure everybody's happy, make sure everybody's safe, right? If you have a negative experience, if you had no, I'm gonna pick up some battery here. All right. So if we gotta have a quick charge up here. So if you are if you've never previously really had issues before with your dog socially, but you had an incident and your dog's a little skeptical or apprehensive, I wouldn't change a whole lot initially, aside from don't let that hold you back from continuing to socialize them. Try to find a friend that has a really stable dog. Get your dog around that dog a couple times. Let them have a good time. Let them realize playing with dogs is okay again, right? If for whatever reason they went from really good to now they're trying to attack other dogs, do so on a muzzle if you need to, right? Or under some, professional guidance or things like that. But the problem here is people socialize their dog too much in inappropriate situations. That's going to create problems, right?
Yes, that's exactly the problem.
Yeah.
There's that one. Emily, that one's got your name in it. That one's for you.
Oh yeah, she did one-on-ones with her dog. Very good golden retriever, super friendly dog. He killed it too, man. She's always posting like awesome off-leash videos and stuff with him. So, okay, can you go over basic overview of how to train a dog, basic commands? I did one-on-ones with you, and we were so happy with obedience, but I can't figure out how to build to it. For example, when playing fetch, how do I teach him to place the ball in my hand? Dave, do you have any input on that one? Placing the ball in the hand?
Make it a game, bro.
Yeah.
You want this ball? Bring it. Come on. Oh yeah! You give me that ball. That ball gets thrown, and holy shit, we got ourselves a game.
We got a game. So that's the biggest thing here, Emily, is when we were teaching basic obedience. It was a lot of teaching control. It was a lot of teaching, like what to do and what not to do, obviously. But when you're teaching more tricks, I call them, like once you're past your foundational training where you're using it to stop problems and get over certain issues, at that point, we want everything to really be as fun as possible for the dog. So I want to take the act of fetch, right? The dog likes chasing the ball, obviously, right? So we could utilize that as our reward in this situation. So what do we want to reward for? We want to reward for the dog putting the ball in your hand. So first, you need to see where's the dog at currently with it. What does the dog do with the ball when it gets it? Does it come and drop it 10 feet away from you? Does it just run victory laps around with the ball for a little bit? what ultimately is the dog, where is it currently at? And how can I incrementally move towards what I want, which is the ball in the hand? Sometimes we don't go right from dog doing victory laps and playing keep away and stuff to ball in the hand. We'll go from victory laps to let's see if we can get the dog to drop the ball 3 feet away from me, right?
I'll be back, guys. I'm listening.
Go right on. So what I'll do is I will throw the ball, right? Dog picks up the ball. At that point, your feet stand still. You don't do anything else. You wait and you see where the dog drops the ball, or you see what the dog does. If it's just running around, wait until it comes back to you. The second the dog drops the ball, pick it up and throw it again. Again, throwing and chasing the ball is the reward, right? So the quicker you do that, the better, right? Don't feed into any sort of chase games or anything. The next time, try to see if you can get the dog to drop the ball a little bit closer. Then the next time, try a little bit closer. Then the next time, a little bit closer until you're ultimately getting it to the point where it's coming into your hand in that case, right? So incrementally build on it. Or some dogs, if you just sit there and wait and you say, nope, come on. And, the second they get it all the way to you, your reward for it, they'll start to pick up on the second I drop it next to this person or put it in their hand, the quicker that game starts again. I would recommend going with dropping right at your feet first instead of putting it in your hand, because that's going to be a little bit more challenging. And if you don't want to pick up a slobbery ball, reach down to the ground, just get a chuck it stick. Pick it up with a chuck it. That's what I do with my dogs. My dogs don't even return it directly into my hand.
No. I was going to say, if you really want to delve deep on this, check out Ivan Balabanov's The Possession Games, and you'll have yourself a field day.
Yeah. So games, playing fetch, things like that. Like, you just need to figure out what's going to motivate the dog. One last point: if the dog is playing keep away with it, play the next couple times you play fetch with your dog, get a 20-foot long line, throw it to the end of the 20-foot long line. When the dog picks up the leash, just reel them back in, right? Don't let them rehearse running off with it and playing keep away for 5 minutes every time,
That's always a fun one. I like that. The fish game.
Little fish game, right?
That's a fun one.
All right. We'll get to a couple more here. Maybe we wrap for 5 more minutes here.
Yeah. We'll
back to work. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, right. Me too. As I say, we'll plow through them quickly. How's that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Rapid fire questions. We'll just go back and forth. You start with this.
RTD Jones. Ryan, what's a good interval of time to get your dog to start sleeping in a crate when training? All night. No, start with putting your dog in the crate when you're in the room. 20 minutes at a time. 20 minutes, an hour, just like place, right? If your dog can do it for 30 minutes, your dog can do it for 5 hours. I tell everybody that. I know who exactly you're talking about. Clifford. Clifford's great in the crate, man. I'm telling you, he's great. Just, he's being a crybaby because he knows you or Jamie is going to let him out. My guess is you. Calling you out. Right, also,
should a dog always have a crate?
100% yes. Always. You know why? Because if you want your dog to come to a board and train with me, it's got to be in the crate. Or what if your friend's got to watch your dog? What if your dog's got to be boarded somewhere? What if you want to go on vacation and your dog's got to go to a training facility, right? Got to be in a crate, man.
There are numerous situations where your dog may need to be crated. Health reasons, they get injured, you're not there, you get injured, and suddenly you walk your dog right there. There's 1,000,001 situations. I recommend regular crating for the lifetime of the dog. That doesn't mean you have to be in it all the time at night or all the time when you're not there or something, but every couple days, if the dog's older, get him in a crate for a little bit. Get him in a crate.
100%. Sometimes Roland sleeps in a crate just because. I'm like, dude, all right, you're going to sleep in a crate. Sometimes, most of the time, he sleeps with me.
This is a good one. A family member is 4 months pregnant and she wants a puppy. When should she get one? Now, after the baby comes. What would you say?
Not now.
Not now. Don't do it now. It's a bad idea.
Don't do it now.
4 months is that you're still going to have an infant dog on your hands, and you're going to have an infant child on your hands. Both require a lot of time and a lot of patience. Now is not the time. Wait until you're past the stages like we talked about with the kid, right? You're past the baby's first home. You're past the baby's crawling. You're past the baby's walking. You are at the point where you have a degree of influence over the child. They know right from wrong, right? Things like that. Yeah. Then if you want to introduce a dog, you're going to have a little bit more time on your hands to do it. So I would hold off for right now. Definitely.
Wait until your kid's off-leash trained for sure. There's this one, any tips for treating separation anxiety? Oh yeah, that's too loaded. I hate to skip over that one, but that one's gonna require
separation
a lot.
Anxiety.
Yeah, that's like a big.
We're gonna have to do a whole other thing on separation anxiety. Yeah, we'll do you follow the National Park rule of dogs must be on a leash? This is an interesting and good question because I do and I don't.
Yes and
Right?
no.
What I mean by that is when I'm at the park with my dogs, they may not always be on a leash, but I am enforcing the rules that those stipulations are trying to if that
enforce.
makes sense, right? So I would say when my dogs are off of the leash. We lost Dave. All right, we've been rolling for a while here. I'm going to say that he's probably I'm going to give him a couple minutes here and see if he comes back on. So we are wrapping up a little Q&A. We were really on a roll there. I'm assuming Dave's phone may have died or something. Everybody's rejoining again. Unfortunately, we lost all the questions, but oh, here we go. That last one here. Waiting for Art of Dog now. We're getting there. Hold on, it's connecting. We're connecting.
That was
What
straight
happened?
up rude. It just straight up goes,
It
thanks for watching.
It
It
said,
just closed.
Fuck you. You've been
It
on
just said,
for an hour.
Fuck you, you idiots are done.
That
Like,
was
alright.
an hour exact. I wonder if it has an hour cutoff.
That's kind of rude. I want to
Yeah, it
talk
is
for
rude.
longer than that.
We were rolling right there. All right, so
I
let's
know.
finish that question, and then let's wrap this up here. So
Yeah.
when my dogs are off of the leash, they are 10 times more under control than they would be on a leash. Not that they're not under control, obviously, when they're on the leash, but 9 times out of 10, they're in the heel position, they are in a down stay somewhere, or it does have an hour cutoff, somebody just said, or
Thank you.
they're in a controlled radius around me in an area where there is nobody else, right? I will never have my dogs off leash doing whatever they want to do if there are other dogs around or other people around. And if they are off of the leash, it is solely because I don't have the leash on me, right? Or I'm transporting them from one place to another, and I'm acting as if they were on leash in that situation, right? So I know this is, this creates some like people don't like that sometimes, right? Because there are leash laws, and I do get it, and I don't like contradicting myself and saying like you should never do it though, right? But answering the question honestly, I do have my dogs off the leash sometimes in parks, but I would say I am more responsible than virtually anybody else in those types of situations. Okay, this person asked, okay, but on a trail in a park, same rules apply.
Same rules apply.
I don't care if it's a trail. I don't care if it's, whatever it is. When I am doing that, I am following those same rules of either they are in a controlled position with me as if they were on leash if there are people and stuff around, or they're in a controlled radius around me, which typically I'll keep within like 20 or 30 feet, where they're very quick to recall back to me if I were to see anybody, and nobody is around if I am doing that. So,
absolutely.
Dave, you got anything else you want to add to that?
That's exactly what I do. If I have my dogs at a public park, so those of you in the Buffalo area, if you go to Delaware Park and let your dog off leash, that's a bad idea. You're never going to see me there. It's basically a 2.5 mile loop, and people just go in the middle and let their dogs off. And there's people running around. There's people's dogs running around with them. It's just a bad idea. I follow the rules. If I'm going from my house to my car, my dogs are rarely on a leash, but they're walking next to me as if they were on a leash. And like David said, I am 20 times more strict when my dogs are off leash than when they are on a leash. And only because of that, it's for safety issues. I don't like to contradict it, but the issue is my dogs aren't going to be running up to the stranger that's 300 yards away with their dog. Ever. It's never going to happen. Let's even go crazier and say the stranger that's 20 feet away, 10 feet away, 5 feet away, my dogs are never going to run up to them. The problem is those other dogs are going to run up to my dogs. That's really what the issue is. But if I'm on a trail, let's say, if I'm on a trail and there's nobody around, if it's not a populated trail, there's a couple places in the area that are not, and we go on a hike, my dogs are off leash. I hear footsteps, no matter where they are. I whistle, the dogs come back, and they get put on a leash because
you have a little whistle recall there.
Oh yeah, you know.
My whistle. That's way better than mine.
Josh Moran did that one for me. Yeah, he made me do that one. But yeah, and I throw him right on a leash and like, dude, we're walking until we get free. But ultimately, yes and no. And I'm a really, I hate to, again, contradict myself, but it's one of those things.
Yeah. So,
but
yes, I know park rangers. I don't know if the park rangers don't know this nor carry here.
No, and I get that.
Again,
I get it.
Empathetic to this.
It depends too. Probably. Like I've had run-ins with the dog warden where the dog warden, the first words out of her mouth are, "I'm going to take your dogs away." And I was like, oh, okay, over my dead body, which obviously, resulted in conflict. And then I've also been in times where the dog wardens come over and been like, hey, I see your dogs are under control. Would you mind putting a longer leash on them, or would you mind just putting them on a leash just because there's people have called and complained? And I was like, sure, they haven't called and complained about me, but
I've also had the
by all
police
means.
officer come up to me and say, "That dog's awesome. Who trained that dog?" Which is
Yes,
always a fun one. But
there's a
again,
local, yeah,
you accept the risks in those situations. You should not probably do it in most cases. I like to think that we are more responsible than the average person. We're not going to put our dogs in any sort of situation where there's going to be any sort of problems, and
yeah.
we're very, very respectful if we're asked to not do it. So we picked a good one to end on, I guess. There,
We did.
Look like
We should do this again because
right.
this turned out to be way more people and way more questions. Oh yeah, it was very bold. It was rude, actually. Yeah, I don't. Don't threaten me. What are you, fucking nuts?
Crazy. Can't do it.
Also,
Josh,
yeah,
yeah.
just
I don't
don't do it.
So, all right.
Rude.
Well, we met our hour cutoff. All our questions are gone now.
Yeah, sorry guys. If
Sorry,
you have
guys.
more, throw them at us, and maybe we'll do another. We'll do another one that's pre-recorded, not recorded. We're obviously in the
Maybe
same
we
time
do.
zone.
I'm kind of the live went good. I think.
I think it went way better. It went way better than I thought it would go.
I
Cause
feel
like,
loose now.
yeah,
Maybe
when I
next
do
time we'll
live
do it a little
videos,
later. We'll have a couple drinks, do a little longer.
for sure. And I will not do a lesson that goes until 4 for the phone call that's happening at 4. I promise. That was my fault, guys. Blame me for the lateness.
All right, Dave. Well, you got anything else dog training related to do today?
Yeah, I got 2 boarding trains here. I got to go take them for a walk, and I'm gonna start both of them on e-collar today, actually.
Sounds fun. I got one lesson, and then we got a bunch of new boarding trains to go work at the shop. So,
Ooh, I like the new boarding trains. They're on day 3, so it's like they're in that first week of just like teaching them all the fun stuff.
Word. All right, Dave.
Word.
Well, appreciate having
David,
me on.
always.
I will be trying to do these. I'm trying to do one every day this week. So, probably at some point by Sunday, maybe we could do another one if I don't have anybody else that wants to come on it. So,
Yeah, man, I'll be happy. I'll hop in on any of them, and I'll even hop in and harass you on any of them as well.
I love it. All right, man.
Awesome,
well,
guys.
you have a good one. Everybody
You
else
as
have
well.
a good one. Train your fucking dog this quarantine.
Train them.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. Later on.